French knot and the Colonial knot. So I'm going to come nice and close. I think I'll go there. You can zoom in on your device. Okay, so I've got my fabric and I've got my stabilizer fused to the back. Couldn't do that much in a week. I could have easily finished one a night if I hadn't been playing this other stupid game. Okay, so my fabric is in my hoop with my stabilizer on the back. And for knotted stitches, I really find that I can't do them without a hoop. It's just too hard because I use two hands. I've got my needle threaded just with a bit of Pearl 16 thread, but you can use any thread. And for a French knot, you just pull it through, take the needle, wrap it once around the needle, put the needle next to the hole that you came out of, just really close to it, but not in the same hole, or else you'll pop it through to the back, but very close to it. And then you pull that knot, that wrap down onto the fabric, and then pick up your hoop and pull it through to the back. Now, if you don't pull it onto the fabric first, like if you just go like that and then pull it through, you're going to end up with a big loop like that. So the important part of the step is that you do the wrap around the needle into the fabric, close to but not the same hole, pull it firmly onto the fabric, and I just hold it there with my thumb as I lift it up and pull the needle through so it stays firm, so you get a nice tiny knot. Now we'll come closer and I'll do the next one. Do another one. It just goes a bit blurry that close. So once again, needle in your right hand, thread in the left, wrap it around the needle next to the hole you came out of, but not the same one. Pull it tight onto the fabric and then pull it through. Now, a true knot only has one wrap. If you want a bigger knot, then you use a thicker thread and a bigger needle. However, we're all guilty of wanting just a bit bigger knot, so we do 2 or 3 wraps. With a French knot, doing several wraps like that, you get a little bit of a tower. And if you're doing lots of them in perfectly spaced lines, they sort of can fall over one way or the other. But you can get away. You can see that knot is a bit bigger. So that was with 3 wraps. But again, the secret is to pull it tight onto the fabric so it's all nice and even. The wraps around the thread are nice and even, and then you pull it through like that. So that's a French knot. And French knots can also be are quite often used to fill a space with knots, like to really pack them tightly and fill a space. If we're doing something like candle wicking, which is a design that has evenly spaced knots that then make the outline of a drawing, for example. Candle wicking is usually done with white on white, and they're evenly spaced knots. As I said, the French knots can tip one side or the other, and then they're not perfectly lined up. So the nicer knot, but a bit trickier to do, is a colonial knot. Now for a colonial knot, it's a little bit trickier until you get it. So I have a little saying like this. So you hold the needle and you kiss your thumbnails, okay? So your thumbnails are touching and the point of the needle is pointing up to 12 o'clock. You take the needle over the thread, and then the tricky bit is you've got to pick up that thread and turn it so it's pointing to 9 o'clock. Do that again. Go over, pick it up, and turn it so it's pointing to 9 o'clock. And then take the thread over the needle. We're just going to do one wrap for now. Put the needle back into the fabric next to the hole you came out. Again, very important. Pull the wraps onto the fabric and then through to the back. And not only do you get a slightly bigger knot than the French knot, but it's like a little donut. So it's like a little circle with a hole in the middle, and it's locked exactly where you want it. So I'm going to show you that again. Needle to 12 o'clock, thumbnails kissing, so they're touching there. Keep it straight as you go over the needle, pick up the thread, turn to 9 o'clock. 1 or 2 or 3 wraps. Needle into the fabric, pull down onto the fabric, make sure there's no loops, and then pull through to the back. Now I'll go in closer and do that again. Okay, so I drop the hoop, so I've got two hands completely free and able to do it. Also, don't think you have to work really close to your work like this. You can come right up here until you pull it down onto the fabric so that you've got plenty of space to work with. Also, don't have your thread too short and try and, squeeze that last one out of a short bit of thread, because it gets really awkward when you're trying to skimp that last bit of thread. So give yourself lots of room to work. I've come back about 2 inches off the fabric there. So needle pointing to 12 o'clock, thumbnails touching, over the thread, pick it up, turn it to 9 o'clock, 1, 2 or 3 wraps, needle into the fabric, right next to the hole you came out, but not the same hole, thread down onto the fabric, most important part, and pull it through, and you've got your colonial knot. Okay, one more thing I'm going to show you, and I think I've showed you this before, is the pistol stitch, which is like a straight stitch with a knot on the end. I'm going to go back out to half again. I'll turn around this way. So it's called a pistol stitch, and it's not a bang bang pistol, OL. It's a pistil like you get in the middle of a flower, a pistil and a stamen. Okay, so PISTIL. And it's used a lot in like floral embroidery and that, to do pistils in the middle of a flower, basically. But it's a pretty cool stitch, and you can use it quite a lot. So if it's a French knot pistol stitch, again, do a wrap around the needle, or 2 or 3, and then instead of going down next to the hole you came out, you go down at the end of what would be your straight stitch. Pull it tight onto the fabric, and you need to keep it really firm on the fabric here so that that straight stitch is firm, and then pull it through to the back, and you've got a straight stitch with a knot on the end of it. But it is a French knot in this case, so again, it's tipping to one side. So I'm going to go out there, pull it onto the fabric, and then through to the back. I'll zoom in a bit closer and do that again. So I'm going to do a wrap or 2, take it down away from where I came up, so the distance I want my straight stitch. So you can do as long as you like, but depending on what you're going to put it on, remember you've got a big loose stitch there that could get snagged. So if it's too long, I'll go back to a back stitch first and pull it through to the back. Now you can do exactly the same thing with colonial knot. So we do our colonial knot, and we go down at the end of the straight stitch, and you've got a similar thing, but I find again that it sits more in the center. Thread's getting a bit short now. So out there, pull it onto the fabric firmly, and then down to the back, and it sits a little bit more into the center. Okay, I'll show you that once more with my hands. Out there, onto the fabric, through to the back, and that's a pistol stitch. I'll just come up a bit closer there so you can see those. Okay, so that was a French knot with 1 wrap, 3 wraps, and then we went to a colonial knot, which is a little bit bigger there, and then a colonial knot with 3 wraps. And then these ones are pistol stitch with the French knot, and then the colonial knots with different amounts of wraps. Okay.